in our houses, in our homes, in our schools, our workplaces, even our neighborhoods. We stopped taking things personally. We stopped gossiping about one another. We stopped caving in, and we stopped playing those games. We decided to forgive them even when they didn't apologize, and we decided to take the high road. I bet you people would stand up and notice. I bet you God would smile on your life in a new and better way. I bet you the crazy makers wouldn't drive you nearly as crazy as they do. But you see, that's only part of the story. Because there's a condition, there's a reason that crazy makers do what they do. And there's a reason that it's difficult for you and for me to deal with crazy makers like this. There's a condition that's below the surface that also needs to be dealt with. If you go back in time to the mid-1600s, in Europe there's what they called the Great Death, the Black Plague. It tore across Europe till almost a third or half of the people living in that part of the world died. It's called the Black Death for a couple of reasons. When it would attack you, you would have a difficulty breathing, but these black sores would begin showing up on your body, these boils, and they knew when that began to happen that you had maybe 2 or 3 days left at most to live. The Black Death. It had come and gone through the centuries, always taking out massive amounts of people, and they didn't know why. They tried all kinds of remedies, and nothing worked. They settled on, they said, we think the problem is we're breathing contaminated air. Somehow we're breathing in this air that has poison in it, and we need to fill our lungs with clean air and get rid of the bad air. So they started doing some strange things. For instance, they would go to the fireplace in the morning and the evening, and they would take out a small portion of ashes that had settled there, and they would breathe them up their nose, which would, of course, make them sneeze violently. And they said if we sneeze violently multiple times a day, the hope is that it would sneeze out the bad contaminated air that we had breathed in, and it would keep us from getting sick. They also thought, okay, if we fill our pockets maybe with plants or petals from flowers, maybe like the English posy plant, beautiful, fragrant, they would go outside and they would take these petals and hold it up to their nose and walk around, smelling the great smell of the flowers, thinking that's protecting them from breathing in the contaminated air. It got to the point where they thought it was the air so much that even in those who had contracted the disease, who were in the hospital, the nurses would take groups of them outside. And the famous English gardens with their rose bushes, they would gather around these rose bushes and maybe hold hands and breathe in deeply the fragrant air. But still people died, thousands, millions. It wasn't until they found out that the plague was caused by the bite of an infected flea that would travel on the rats that they were able to stop it and get rid of the problem. Even though it's hundreds of years ago,